Hi, I'm Bobby Donaldson, Professor of History at the University of South Carolina, where I direct the Center for Civil Rights History and Research. I am the lead scholar for Columbia SC 63, Our Story Matters, an initiative established in 2012 by Mayor Steve Benjamin. The goal of the project was to chronicle and to tell the story of civil rights events, personalities, and organizations in Columbia, in collaboration with the cities of Birmingham, Selma, and Montgomery, Alabama, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, and Washington, D.C. In the 1960s, Columbia played a vital role in the civil rights struggle in this country, and Main Street was a theater of protest and demonstrations. On February 1st, 1960, students at North Carolina A&T in Greensboro sat down at lunch counters to protest racial segregation. What occurred in Greensboro also occurred in Greenville, South Carolina, in Rock Hill, in Florence, in Columbia, in Denmark, Orangeburg, and Charleston. And the Columbia 63 Project has worked to identify those individuals who took part in these extraordinary struggles to challenge racial discrimination in South Carolina and around the nation. On March 3rd of 1960, hundreds of students from Allen University and Benedict College came downtown to challenge segregation all along Main Street, at department stores, at hotels, at theaters. On March 14th, 1960, students came down Taylor Street from Allen University and Benedict College. They gathered in the 1500 block of Main Street, where I'm standing today. And 60 years ago, they sat down at lunch counters. About midday on March 14th, 1960, students gathered at the Eckerd's department store. The Eckerd store was in the building behind me, the granite facade Romanesque building that was once the site of the Canal Savings Bank. But in the 1930s, it became the Eckerd store. On March 14, 1960, students sat down and asked to be served and were denied service because of their race. When told to leave, they refused. The police were called, and the students were arrested for trespassing and disturbing the peace. Those students were led by two undergraduates, one from Allen University named Simon P. Bowie, and Talmadge Neal, who was a student at Benedict College. They were arrested, they were tried, and they were convicted in 1960. But in 1964, weeks before the signing of the Civil Rights Bill, two cases from Columbia were decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. One case was called Bowie versus Columbia. Another case was called Barr versus Columbia. The Bowie case addressed incidents that occurred at the Eckerd's department store 60 years ago. The Barr case discussed events that took place on March 15th of 1960, when 5 students from Benedict College were arrested for sitting in at the Taylor Street Pharmacy, a building now in Columbia occupied by Hawthorne's Pharmacy on the corner of Taylor and Pickens Street. These two cases, rooted in Columbia, were landmark cases. Fortunately now, their stories chronicled in wayside signs down Main Street. Their stories are chronicled in historic state markers, one here at the old Eckerd's department store and another at the former Taylor Street Pharmacy. Bowie v. Columbia, Barr v. Columbia, important stories that matter.